Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show. And yep, we switched back to the old intro. The new one, I guess, wasn't doing it. And honestly, I wasn't really all that happy with it either, but I wasn't too sure what I wanted to do with it instead. But yeah, I think I'll just set it aside for now. I kind of like the old one too. I kind of missed it, so I don't know. Maybe we'll try again in the future with something new, but for right now, we're going to stay with a classic. But today, oh, do we have a topic of discussion today, because Calling All Devs happened, and they released just a little bit of a tidbit in the discussion between Disco Lando and Kirk Tomei. They were talking about electronic warfare, hacking, things like that. Of course, stuff that would warrant a Herald episode, and we would be flying the Herald, of course, if the Herald weren't always trying to murder us, which I'm sure is a bug that will be fixed in the future. But they were talking about E-War, and they're talking about all the different things that are on the horizon for that, and things that are possibilities. None of this is guaranteed, but this is just, once again, it's one of those discussions where they're kind of giving us the spirit of the idea, which is something I love. I love to hear where their heads are at, what they're thinking of, and this is what they were talking about, and it was great. They were talking about, well, we want you to be able to jam communications. That was really cool. Hacking into someone's systems on their ship, allowing you to breach a door without having to physically damage it. And, the hacking of various ship systems and trigger all Space Justice Warriors in 3, 2, 1, including flight controls. That's right, the ability to seize control of the flight controls of someone's ship and fly their ship for them. Or fly it into an object, potentially. I don't know, we're flying in an asteroid field, gives me a few ideas. Wow. I never thought that would ever be something that was on the table, but to hear them say it, I went, oh, that sounds good. I really like the sound of that. That's an interesting and possibly very devious possibility, and that really kind of makes you look at the Herald in a whole new way. That really makes me look at the Herald in a whole new way. I mean, the idea of hacking someone else's flight controls, that's kind of crazy, man. I mean, just think about it. Even if you're like the kind of pirate who just wants to go after, say, NPCs, you're a pirate, but you want to be kind of like a nice guy pirate. Or you're just like, NPCs, they're more predictable, so that'll be more profitable in the long term, maybe, blah, 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 whatever. I mean, you think about all these stations that we fly to on these planets. Pretty soon there's going to be NPC cargo ships going here, there, and everywhere. We might get into a situation where you can hack into one of those NPC cargo ships after they leave Bountiful Harvest or Kudri or Shubin, whatever, and just wait till they're maybe 10, 15 kilometers away or whatever, then just hack into their flight controls and crash them down onto the planet, and then just move in and salvage it. That's interesting. And, they talked about blocking communications, blocking distress calls, or blocking communications, distress calls obviously implied. But, man, that was interesting. I just started looking at it, I was thinking, wow, that would be just such a... I mean, that opens up so many possibilities when you think about it, what you can do with ships. And, as soon as I heard that, my head just started kind of, like the wheels started spinning. And I was like, what can you do with that? What can you do with that? What are all the ways that you can really mess something like that up? Like if someone's running away, you could shut down their thrusters or throw them into a spin. I think the Herald stock just went up 10 points off of that. Like, I always was kind of, very pro Herald, but it really went next level with this discussion. I went, wow. Now, of course, they also discussed that there would be the possibilities to harden against that, though, once again, no specifics. But Man, that seems really interesting. Being able to see someone else's flight controls, being able to crash a ship, or maybe crash one ship into another ship. I mean, let's say you're facing some kind of long odds against a couple of capital ships. I mean, is it possible that you could kind of maybe, like, let's say 2 javelins are coming after you, you could kind of maybe hack into the controls of one javelin if you're like a really super good hacker, and just kind of take over the flight controls of that javelin and just kind of Rogue One it into the other javelin? Oh, that's some interesting possibilities, man. After seeing Rogue One of the first things that I thought of in the theater was, oh my god, I wonder if you could pull that, you know, when the frigate comes in, smashes into the Star Destroyer, and then, which is disabled, and then crashes it into the other one. I thought, oh man, what if you could do that with the Reclaimer? What if you could disable a ship somehow, and then the Reclaimer could grab onto it with the claw and then kind of push that ship ahead of it, kind of like a riot shield or something, to protect itself, then just to push it towards another ship, and at the last moment just kind of let go and back off and veer away and just send that disabled ship careening into another one. I mean, that might be an interesting tactic. And so in the back of my mind, you know, I have this little checklist of things that I want to do in the Star Citizen universe, and that was one of them. But the possibility now of using someone else's ship against them, that really, I mean, ships as a weapon, that really becomes interesting, especially when it's someone else's ship. I mean, not just the possibility of, you know, crashing an NPC freighter and then retrieving the loot, but I mean, if someone's coming after you and you've got a few heralds around, you could really mess them up if they decide to bring in something expensive, unless they're specifically kitting their ships out to prevent that sort of thing. Now, obviously, this is, you know, when you're getting up into a big ship like a Javelin or an Idris, you're probably going to have all kinds of specialist equipment that prevents that sort of thing. But, I mean, could you hack into a fighter and crash a fighter into its mothership? I mean, that could be a possibility, right? I mean, you could still conceivably, if there was like some smaller medium freighters, I mean, let's say you had 2 freighters making a run in between 2 systems, and then one crashed into the other one, knocking both ships out. And all of a sudden, you know, there's all this salvage lying around. What an opportunity. Yay. You know? I mean, we always knew that hacking was going to be a thing, but to kind of get that information, you know, once again, also opening up doors on ships and stuff like that. This sounds really really exciting stuff. I wish now that hacking was on the roadmap for this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I do not see it there on for this year. I think the final ones that we're getting this year are like land claim purchasing and all of that stuff. But apart from that, I think this year is more of the core systems, and the hacking stuff is going to have to wait until later. And, you know, maybe this is just CIG sprinkling a few ideas out there to see what people react to positively or negatively. But, man, I really dug that. When I heard that, all of a sudden it was just, oh, I know how I could use that really well. I'm hoping they do follow through with it, even if it is something that, like, let's say you're in a Herald, you would have to purchase very specialist and probably very expensive equipment that would be its own kind of entry barrier to getting it to do something like that. And maybe the equipment that prevents it, or at least, you know, makes it very difficult to do, is something that is relatively cheap. So it wouldn't be something that would be omni useful. Like, people wouldn't be running around just hacking everybody's ships and crashing them all the time. Like, it would be something that would be very difficult to do, very skill based. Not so much, oh, I bought the Type 9G ship hacking, you know, supercomputer, so I just hack everybody all the time and crash them all over the place. But, you know, still, like, it would still be something that's mostly about the skill of the player and having the time window necessary to pull something like that off. But yeah, that really got me excited when I heard about that. I was like, oh, if they do that right, it could be done in such a nice way, and it would be really, really fun. I wish that hacking was on the roadmap for this year now, because I would love to see what happens with that. I hope this is something that really becomes a reality, because I can see a lot of possibilities. And I mean, even for players who aren't pirates, let's say you're going out there and you're fighting the Vanduul. What if you could hack into one of the Vanduul capital ships and all of a sudden seize control of its engines or its guns and turn it on one of the other Vanduul ships? That's an interesting tactical possibility there too. Maybe they'd limit it so you could only do it to NPCs, not to human players. Maybe. I'd still be excited about it even if that was the limitation of it. It's something I want to hear more about now. I wish that we were further along in the development of this game now, just so I could see how all the hacking stuff shakes out. But yeah, so glad I was, so into the Herald and picked it up, because the Herald just became so much more interesting. Anyways, some interesting possibilities to ponder on your Monday. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.